This morning I have the privilege and pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker for today. Jerry Bridge is a nationally recognized motivational speaker, trainer, and author for the healthcare industry. He has over 25 years of experience presenting keynotes and workshops to tens of thousands of healthcare professionals, providers, executives, managers, and staff. His focus is turning complex topics into engaging, thought-provoking programs that help people dramatically reduce stress, improve performance, and inspire leadership. Jerry's book, Who Cares? Matters of the Heart, Humor, and Reconciliation, has been widely recognized by healthcare professionals as an inspiring, uplifting memoir for anyone with a family caregiving challenge or story. Jerry has traveled the world, running marathons, raising money and resources for ending hunger. In his spare time, he's a drummer. So for the musicians in the room, you'll like that. He is known for knowing his way around the kitchen. And he's even had time to do stand-up comedy at the Comedy Store. Above all else, Jerry's passion is to lead inspiring, motivating programs that empower people while having lots of fun in the process. Please help me in welcoming Mr. Jerry Bridge.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Good morning, everybody. A fellow in the back of the room asked me what music I'd like to have, we were going to do if I only had a brain, because funny thing happened on the way to Nashville. So I live and work out of San Luis Obispo, California, which is about halfway between Los Angeles and San Francisco. It's a sleepy little town. It's like Mayberry, one street light, 14,000 people. It's really cool. So in order to fly out of San Luis, everything goes through Denver, and I'm about to board my plane in Denver, heading to Memphis, because I didn't make the connection that I wasn't going to Graceland, I was going to Opryland. Leadership, culture, and well-being. Thank you very much. Anyway, geography is not my high card. So how are you guys doing? It was a great reception last night, right? How many of you visited the whiskey bar? Woo! Love that. What a great job, right? Great job MatrixCare is doing, producing this event. Awesome. These guys in the back of the room worked so hard to produce this. You know, this is a really big deal. So it is really, it's such an honor for me to be here with you today. I sort of got connected to MatrixCare. I was doing a keynote presentation for the Healthcare Association of Florida not too long ago, and somebody was kind enough to recommend me. And even after talking to Steve and some of the other leadership, they still hired me. So it's really my privilege to be here and to be your speaker. The part of this talk on leadership, culture, and well-being, transformational principles and best practices is really the evolution of a talk that I've been doing for years called, If Healthcare is About Well-Being, Then Why Am I So Stressed Out? It's really the irony of living and working in a time of people that work so hard to care for others that they themselves often wind up in the hospital as a patient that you work for. That's the crazy train. I mean, how many of you got more to do than time to do it? You're feeling more stressed out than ever, right? It's the time we live in. I mean, the crazy train is killing yourself to care for others. Ozzy Osbourne used to sing about the crazy train. Where are my Ozzy fans in here? I'm going off the rails on the crazy train. Sharon! I know it's only 8:35. I'm getting here myself. But it's really crazy, and we live in a time that's really unlike any other time in human history. We are the experiment. Living with technology, all this technology that's supposed to make our life so much easier. Which is kind of ironic, because I was telling my wife about this talk, and she goes, isn't this kind of like a technology, event? I said, yes, but it's not the technology. Technology is great. But technology alone doesn't provide care. It's human beings, it's human connection that is the difference. And so for my part today, it's all I want to be able to do is to offer in this really short time that we have together is some transformational principles. And I'm not kidding about that. I really mean for you to be able to leave here after this hour with a new opening, a new engagement for yourself and with the people that you work with, a new possibility. Because the track that we're on is unsustainable. You and I, human beings, Americans, we are sicker than ever. Higher incidences of obesity, cardiovascular disease, with the impact of technology, attention deficit disorder. What the hell was I just talking about, right? And it's only getting worse. We're not eating well, we're not sleeping well. How many of you are not sleeping well? You wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and go, oh my God, left my kid at soccer practice. You ever standing in front of the refrigerator wondering what the hell you're doing there? You can't find the cell phone that's in your hand while you're actually making a call? I know I'm not the only one, right? And my wife's like, aren't you calling me now? I'm like, oh yeah. It's just, and it's unsustainable. Not to mention 10,000 seniors coming into the market every day, millions more over the years, and not enough caregivers, right? So, just in developing this talk, I really, really mean to have something meaningful that'll make a difference in your life, and moreover, the people that you work with. So I grew up in a time, just a little bit of background, where the stores were closed on Sundays, most people didn't work weekends, and The Wizard of Oz only came on once a year. Oh, do you remember that? Oh, I know, right? And it was a really big deal. Oh, and if you missed it, you missed it. You couldn't get everything all the time, anywhere, anyway. It was a time in which there was space in between things. Space to be, to breathe, to do nothing, to read a book. It wasn't 24/7 and 365. In fact, at 2 o'clock in the morning, the national anthem would come up, and the guy would say, this brings us to another end of our broadcast day. Go to bed. It's insane. And we don't know how to do this. We try mightily. We really do, don't we? We get up earlier. We stay later. We get the latest new technology. Right? We go to courses. We listen to speakers. And it's just the underlying impact is we are more stressed out than ever because our brains are not built to take the kind of amount of information in daily. You take in more information in one day than the average person in 1850 took in their whole life. It's like getting a drink of water out of a fire hydrant. Right? And we think it's personal, like if I just put my nose to the grindstone, then I can get it all done. No, you will never get it all done. Never, never, never. It's impossible in today's world. 100 years ago, it was farming, it was industry. You didn't need a Post-it note on the hoe to know which, is it corn or wheat? Thank you for that. Is it corn or wheat today? We have all this time management tools, and we're still valiantly trying to catch up, let alone keep up. Are we relating here? And healthcare is about well-being. It's insane. All of this infrastructure, all of this technology, MatrixCare and every other company, it's all designed to support well-being. That's the whole point. That's the point of healthcare. And yet, so we've got work to do. Some of us work on ourselves. Some of you are already on that track where you're like, I'm not doing email dispositions at 3 o'clock in the morning. It's not worth my life. You know, on your gravestone, it will say, wow, she almost caught up to her emails. A good person. No. You know, for my part, it was like 15 years ago, you know, I'm working, you know, and this now email, and I hadn't even started my day yet, and I've already got more email in my inbox, you know, that I don't know, you know, and nobody told me how to deal with this stuff. You know, there was no instruction booklet, right? And we're all just all over the place with the email, aren't we? You ever have somebody send you an email, 5 minutes later they'll call you up and go, did you get my email? Yeah. And then 10 minutes later you get a video with a little cat in it, you know, riding a dog or something, right? So it's just crazy. It's just crazy. So for me, it's really living inside the question of, you know, how do I live and work? Seriously. How do we live and work in a time, a crazy busy time, where we've got more to do than time to do it, right? We're committed to doing the best job possible. It's amazing the work that you guys are doing. I know, I'll tell you based on my personal story in a second. I know firsthand, I've experienced it. And I've been in conversations with the folks at MatrixCare. Amazing products, right? Amazing service, amazing people. And so for my part, I wanted to just put my 2 cents in about what we could do, you know, to enhance, to further enhance. Like when you're good, when you're really good, when you're not stressed out, when you're focused, as leaders in here, the more grounded you are, the more relaxed you are, right? The more able we are to imbue that with the people in our organizations. You know, you can't do it unless you're living it authentically. You can pretend it, but people always know when you're full of it, right? I mean, you do. We always know when somebody's just pretending and not really being authentic. And it's authenticity that's the hallmark of great leaders, and we'll talk about that a little bit today. So I just really, again, want to recognize, you know, the great work that these folks are doing, and it's going to continue to do. And but technology alone is not the answer. And so what we need are, you know, human solutions, human capacities. You guys, I'm losing the monitor here. It goes black. We need expanded capacities for empathy, love, compassion, and connection. That's what it is to be a human being. You know, you want to punish somebody, you put them in isolation, right? In prison. That's how we punish our most hardened criminals. We keep them from socializing. And I'm going to assert that a lot of us are living in isolation. Not because we want to, that thing keeps going black, not because we want to, but because it's kind of the new world we live in, where we're predisposed by habit for less socialization, you know. And with healthcare in particular, you know, back in the day, I mean, way back in the day where, you know, in the available modalities for senior care now with community homes and with assisted care, with hospice care, with long-term care and skilled nursing care, you know, wasn't that long ago that people, if they didn't have anybody, they were in a poorhouse, you know, on the floor, or on a, you know, or generationally with their families. So it's those human solutions, those human capacities. That's kind of the underlying theme of what I'm talking about today. And as I say, the number of caregivers and healthcare staff feeling overwhelmed and overstressed and burned out is growing exponentially. So we've got this double whammy. We've got, you know, I know you know this, but, you know, more of us coming into the, and by the way, more of us coming in. I can't believe that I am 62 years old. Because like inside I'm still like 9. How many of you know what I'm talking about? Like chronologically you're one age, but psychologically you're another age. Like I still think farts are funny. Especially in bed, which my wife hates. And The angrier she gets, the funnier it is. Is that too much? The guys know what I'm talking about. But you know, youthfulness, right? So yeah, and we'll talk about today, again, in the short time that we have. You know, I'm not an expert. I did lots of research. I really, really want you to know that I worked really hard, like 5-6 months on doing research to prepare for this program. It's not just for the hour today, but it's to be able to carve out a new space in healthcare, and senior care particularly is where I have a commitment, where you are well, and the culture in which you work imbues this kind of well-being that attracts people to come work for it. That you've got to just say, well, we can't take any more CNAs. We're full up. And I'm going to share with you some examples, some case studies that I've done with some of the folks that are MatrixCare users that have some amazing models around caregiver-centric model and care that are sustainable models. And really, really exciting stuff. So for most of human history, people ate, worked, slept, and socialized within nature's rhythms, the changing of the season and the rotations of the sun. And frankly, our nervous systems are oriented to months and days, to seasons, not bits, pixels, and tweets. And again, you know, it's that disconnect. And, you know, for some people that come and listen to my talks, you know, yeah, I've heard this before. We've all been to talks where the guy or the gal in the front of the room said something that's made a difference in your life, that stuck with you. How many of you have had that experience? And, you know, me too. And it's not so much maybe what I'm going to say as really how you're listening today. Like some of you know that the track you're on is unsustainable, or that you can see this collision coming in your organization where the revenues aren't great, the competition is stiff. You know, you've got PDPM now, you've got staffing, you know, challenges, you've got millions more of us coming into the marketplace, and it's like, I don't know how you're dealing with it. I mean, I'm doing this work and I'm like, I'd be really, really concerned or just resigned, or like, I'm gonna retire and get the hell out. Do you know what I mean? But for those of us that are in it, we're in it for the long term and the long haul. It's really about this sort of integrated model where you always start with individual transformation. I've done 30 years of study and training and development with an organization called Landmark Education. I don't know if you're familiar with Landmark, any graduates of their programs, but basically it's the kind of education that's not linear. See, when we go to school, it's first grade, second grade, all the way up through high school, then college. You know, whatever you learn next is based on what you learned previously. The kind of principles that I want to share with you today are not linear. They're transformational. That is to say, it's a state change. It's like learning how to balance a bicycle. You go from not balancing, right, to balancing. And you don't know how the hell you did that. You could explain it, but the explanation isn't it. Because you try explaining to somebody how to balance a bicycle who doesn't balance a bicycle, they don't get it by explanation, do they? They get it when they get it, right? And these principles work the same way. If you really, are drawn to what we're saying today, you know, when I say what we're saying, because I'm speaking and you're listening, and I have no power, the only power that I have lives inside the degree to which you can hear it as a possibility. If you can't hear what I'm saying as a possibility, it was a good time, hopefully, and then you go into the next thing, and that's fine. So we'll go from there. So as I say, we've got these extraordinary challenges regarding well-being, fatigue, stress and burnout, retention, recruitment, staffing, competition, and corporate viability. So that's all sort of, you know, I really appreciate that many of you took the time to respond to the survey that I sent. I know, I hate even doing it because you've already got way more to do the time to do it. But for me as a speaker, it helps me to kind of get in your world a little bit deeper and understand really what's going on, at your facility, what it is that you particularly are working on. And I hope that you maybe resonated with the fact that I offered that survey, and that, this is a guy that cares enough, right, to say, wait a minute, it's not just some spiel he's going to do, because I got better things to do with my life. I mean, I love this, don't get me wrong. I mean, to be able to be up here, it's like amazing. To start your day with an applause. Like I tell my wife, honey, I get an applause, you should applaud me. She goes, just roll over, turn over, you're snoring. Anyway, okay. So, about your speaker. My first gig was my bar mitzvah. I was a hit. That's me at 13. I don't know if you know from bar mitzvahs here. If you're not Jewish, it's like a kosher confirmation. My Aunt Sophie stuck an envelope in my pocket. She gave me a kiss. She smelled like smoked fish and mothballs. The Jews in here know what I'm talking about. And I grew up in a family. So my dad and his three brothers, that's my dad. Let's see, that would be on the left-hand side. That's me, by the way, under that blue arrow. My grandfather had a Jewish delicatessen back in Baltimore, raised 4 boys, all learned how to play drums on the pots and pans in the kitchen. What chance did I have, right? I tried the trumpet for one day. It didn't work out so much. So I come from a long line of, comics and cut-ups, and, I hope it serves me well in doing these talks. And I went to college. When I went to college, I studied history, philosophy, and dance, which is what qualifies me to teach you today, right? More seriously, I've been teaching in healthcare for about 25 years. The first 10, 15 years was on practice management, revenue cycle, collections. A few years back, I actually taught ICD-10 transition for physicians. Seriously, so I know enough to be dangerous, right? And it's amazing. And then, that's my better half, Joy. We've been together for 20 years, and that's 20 years in a row. If you're in a relationship for any amount of time at all, you know what I mean? Like you love them, but damn, you know what I mean? Like, and they are never going to change, and you're never going to change, right? So you just find a way, right? So great, right? And then there's my little baby Bubba Jimmy. Isn't he cute? He's so cute. How many of you are cat and dog people? And we love these animals. And we talk baby talk. Oh, what a good girl she is. What a good boy he is. He's a good boy. He's a good boy. Sometimes we are nicer to our animals than we are to each other. You see somebody having a bad day, you go, oh, did you spill coffee on your favorite blouse? Come on, let me give you a scratch. I'm going to give you a scratch. And I'm sad to say my little Bubba, he was only 4.5 years old. We had to put him down about 6 weeks ago. Oh, I love this boy. We love you, Jimmy. And we're going to get another one, because they need us, right? Oh, but we love them. Any of you have pet therapy where you work? It's great. Oh, it's so great. Pet therapy and music therapy and all that. So, and then let me tell you about my dad. So that was that drummer. So my dad lived at Brookdale Assisted Care. I don't know, do we have Brookdale in the house? Any Brookdale in the house? No? Okay. So, that was his girlfriend, who was also the wellness director. One day he said to me, I need $20 because we're going to lunch. Because they get to the point where they can't carry a wallet anymore. They get to a point where you got to remind them to put their pants on before they leave. Dad, you're leaving in your diaper, huh? What? And then from assisted care, he moved into board and care. And my father knew where to hug a woman. He said, I finally got a woman in bed. Seriously. And then, I had the unfortunate experience of losing my brother, my sister, and my mother to cancer in a 10-year period. And it knocked the hell out of me. And then to support my dad through losing 2 children and his wife of 60 years throughout that. So I come from the kind of family caregiver side, and it really did knock the heck out of me. And there's nothing worse than a anxiety-ridden, depressed motivational speaker, trust me. Oh, we're all going to die anyway. What's the use? And I kept a journal during this time. And I mean, there was just times where I was in the doctor's office like all the time. You know, my dad is like, after he lost his little girl, now he goes off the deep end. He's in grief. You know, he won't come out of his depression. My brother has a blood disease. My mother is a Jewish mother. You know, she reminded me, you know, my first job as a waiter at a Jewish delicatessen, I walked up to the table, I said, "Is anything okay?" I wanted the tip of tongue. It's a law, never mind. So, you know, so I'm very, I was so blessed to be able to be with each and every one of my family members as they took their last breath. And those of you that have experienced that, a lot of you have, either at work or with your families, it's profound. And it really kind of trues you up to what's most important in life. And so for me, the guiding principle is with well-care, with self-care, is, you know, our breaths are finite. They really are. We only have so many. And you're going to see me doing this a lot. Just connecting with my heart and my breath. Because as you'll see, as we do this talk, I'm going to point to that as a way to return mindfulness and well-being in the moment, rather than whatever your habit is, to just kind of hyperventilate or do what we call shallow breathing that you don't even know you're doing. It's autonomic breathing that your nervous system and your brain provides so you don't just die. You start shallow breathing. You don't take deep, relaxing breaths. And as you're supporting your family members as they're making their transition from the physical world into the spiritual world, you're kind of breathing for them. You're taking breaths. You're helping them along. How many of you know what I'm talking about? You're helping yourself. You're bringing spirit to it. You know, and there's good deaths and there's bad deaths. My mom was scared to death. When the hospice nurse came, she brought a teddy bear, and we were all there, and it was all fine and wonderful for a while until she said, "Well, Mrs. Bridge, I just need you to authorize this paperwork, which basically indicates you're terminal, 6 months or less." And my mother freaked out. She said, "Oh my God, what am I going to do?" And then I walked the hospice nurse out to the front door. She said, "Your mom's going to be a tough one." And she was. Not like my dad. My dad was like, "Go home and have meatloaf. I'm good." And I did. So for my part, I want to have a good death. I don't mean to be morbid about that. What that means is I want to do everything that I can to do what's most important, like my work, at home, my family, and to make sure that I don't have a stroke or some other premature illness, you know, some brain disorder, deficiency, dementia, because we don't know the long-term impact of, you know, the more face time we spend with our technology, the more we become like the machines we focus on, right? We're becoming more machine-like, and machines are becoming more human-like. It's weird, right? So without our humanity, that's the whole point in healthcare, is that kind of connection. So I'm very, very connected to that. So let me tell you what we're doing here. This is, now that we're listening, I can feel you're really, you know, engaged. So I took a lot of time really writing this intention because I take this stuff seriously. And for me, so the intention of this talk is to provide an opportunity for you to cause a breakthrough for yourself and your organization. For you to cause for yourself a breakthrough. Not that I can do it to you, I can't. Something could happen inside of your listening that's a state change, that's a game changer, okay? How are we going to do that? By adopting transformational principles and implementing best practices designed to open new possibilities for being an effective action. So to cause a breakthrough for yourself and your organization by adopting, which we'll go through, transformational principles. You know, principles around authenticity, where we stop pretending, you know, we stop pretending that we're not well. We stop pretending we follow directions when we don't. We stop pretending like this person really understood what I said when they didn't. We're authentic. We're authentic with ourselves. We're authentic as leaders. We restore a kind of integrity. Doing what you say when you say you're going to do it provides workability. And if you can't do it, honoring your word by saying, hey, I couldn't do it then, but here's when I am going to do it. Without a foundation of integrity, nothing works. And we're very sloppy about that. We don't want to be. I mean, integrity is a positive phenomenon, not as a moral, phenomenon. Just something like gravity, like spokes on a wheel. If the spokes start to decay, then eventually the wheel goes out of round. So that kind of integrity, right? So those kind of principles that make a difference. And best practices. We're going to talk a little bit about my research. I spoke with CEOs and others about this model called caregiver-centric care, where the model is about making sure that the caregivers have everything they need to be well and do their jobs. Does our company make less money? A bit? Yeah. But we're focused on, if we have to spend that money just churning through people and we're stressing out and we're resigned, that's unsustainable, okay? So that's what we're talking about. And we're talking about new possibilities for being. See, there's nothing that I could say today necessarily that's going to change the circumstances. They are what they are. You got real challenges. Not enough caregivers. Too many people coming in. Just making revenue. Making sure your payer mix works. All of it. People that don't show up. People that don't listen, whatever. Right? But what I know is for a fact is what I assert is we've all had the experience where I can actually have a transformation in who I'm being. Like balancing the bicycle. Like all of a sudden, I have the ability, the capacity to see my world in a new way. And it's in the seeing that my actions are more effective. It's in the seeing that I'm actually less stressed. See, you and I possess at every moment in our lives, whether we know it or not, we possess the profound capacity to transform the quality of our lives at every moment, moment to moment. Sometimes it happens when a loved one is dying. It transforms you. Or sometimes it happens when you're witnessing a marriage. It transforms them and you. We don't want to have to wait till we get married or die, right? We want to be able to have that. Just like in technology, we've seen these amazing transformations over the last 25 years, right? I mean, that smartphone, that's like the tricorder that Spock used to hold in Star Trek, right? You know what I mean? So we have it with technology. What about with the human capacities? All right. So let me just tell you, we're going to cover this survey in a little bit, but there's some of this stuff, there's way too much content in the slides. Don't worry about it. I don't want you to be overwhelmed with it. I really was struggling with how much do I put in and how much do I leave out. So if it's more than your brain can handle, just kind of close your eyes and just listen to my words, because I don't want you to stress out over listening to this. And by the way, how many of you are already worried and stressed about what you're missing at work by virtue of being at this conference? That's crazy! We can never be where we are. In the old days, if something was important, you got your 50 cents and you went out to the phone bank and you made a phone call. Now, as I'm talking, you are going to want to look because you're an addict. How many of you know you're addicted? It's no different than the guy or the gal in Vegas pulling the slot machine or the cocaine addict. All the chemicals are the same. Adrenaline, cortisol, it's all the same. We are addicted to technology, and it's really debilitating. Okay, so I said in the survey, for those of you that were able to do it, is what do you do, what's your role, what are your biggest challenges, and your challenges were basically what I said before. It's staffing, it's quality, it's revenue, it's competition, and it's, like that. So then I said, well, what are your aspirations? Like if you could have a breakthrough with yourself, or with your organization, what would that look like? So what would the feeling be? What would your vision be for what's possible? And there was, over 100 answers, so I picked some. Somebody said staff retention, happy residents, happy, peaceful, calm environment. So kind of a happiness, a kind of peace of mind. I mean, wouldn't you think that if you worked in healthcare, that would be a part of it, right? Engaged employees delivering quality with equipment and resources purchased through revenue. So there's sufficient revenue, there's engagement, there's quality. Consistency in reporting, charting, and capturing expenses, revenue in all departments by engaged employees and managers that are willing to understand how their actions impact the organization as a whole. Better quality of care for clients, lesser risks, improve relationships. That's connection, relationships. Establishing trust that best care services will be provided. You also said that your vision would be the ability to have a consistent flow of top talent for healthcare that were engaged and enthusiastic about longevity in the field. Enthusiasm, like a natural, honest-to-God enthusiasm, which you do have and lose from time to time. We all do it. The moment I realized I was about to fly into the wrong city, I lost my enthusiasm. The adrenaline kicked in and I got into action. When the gal at the counter said, no, we can't do this, we're actually boarding your flight. And I just was like, I need you to get my bag, call the other gate, I'm running, and made it happen. Like that, right? Leadership in action. Teamwork would be key, teaching staff and updating the general workforce with the big picture. For a lot of us, it's like, what the big picture is. The big picture is making sure that the seniors in our charge are loved, are cared for, are connected. That's the point to all of this. That's the point to revenue. That's the point to software. That's the point to charting. The point is the end game. That's the big picture. Giving the on-floor staff a bigger platform to speak about new ideas. So I say that all of these and more are possible. And what it's going to take is it's going to take a stand, like no kidding. For you individually, it's going to take a stand on your own personal well-being. That's kind of where you start, and the vision you have for your life. And then whether you're a leader or not, see, we are all leaders. I say we're all leaders more or less. I say we're all caregivers more or less. We're all on the spectrum. There's no, well, that person's a leader and I'm a follower. I mean, how great would it be if you had leadership qualities in every person of your organization who wasn't the victim or took responsibility or had a level of integrity or a level of authenticity? It would transform your organization. That's possible. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying it's hard. But what I'm saying is it's worth doing. It's worth our lives, okay? So just a bit about self-care and well-care. Self-care is not selfish. Your health and well-being are gifts you give to your family, your coworkers, your clients. And I work with so many people in healthcare where with the nurses, it's others before self, right? And there was a time, but I think now it's more holistic, it's integrated. Because if I'm no good, if you brought your family member into a care facility and everybody's just running around like a chicken with their head cut off and nobody's paying attention to mom or dad, how would that make you feel? You couldn't sleep very well at night, right? And then practicing mindfulness is an effective antidote for reducing stress. As a matter of fact, it's one of the best antidotes. I'm not able to speak now. Anecdotes. No. What's the word? Yeah, whatever. It's the cure. Antidote. Thank you. Oh, I'm so embarrassed. Mindfulness has proven to increase focus, relaxation, sense of well-being, and productivity naturally. So everybody uncross your arms and legs. We're actually I'm not just going to talk about it, I want us to experience it. And take a couple deep breaths, really deep conscious breaths. Being mindful that your breaths are finite. You only have so many. You take them for granted. I want you to feel the weight of your body in your chair. Those of you that are standing, you can do this while standing. Take a nice deep breath. And as you release, I'd like you to let go of any concerns or worries that you have. Anything about work or family or personal. Just let go of all of it and just see if you can allow yourself to be present in your breath and connect to your body. If you like, you can put either your left or your right hand over your heart. And I'd like you to also send some positive, loving, kind energy to your heart. That heart that's going to beat maybe 2 trillion times in your lifetime that we don't always take care of. It takes care of us. It tries. But too many of us are having heart dis-ease because we're not loving on our hearts. And we have good hearts. And just get the idea, no matter what your little mind says about, oh, this is silly, this is stupid, just thank it for sharing. And just go there. And feel relaxation over your whole body. And see if you can envision a newfound commitment to being well, to well-being, that all is well, even in the face of any maladies you may be experiencing. All is well. There's a way of being because you said so. All is well. All is well. Deep breath. And exhale, release any stress or tension in your body. Getting present. All is well. And then whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes. And by a show of hands, how many of you experience a sense of deep relaxation? Raise your hands and look around. Yeah, this is the antidote. This is what you do. I have people doing this all over the country. This is not rocket science. This is what works. I was keynoting for the Nebraska Healthcare Association just last week in Kearney, Nebraska. The Eunice Convention Center, so cute. And afterwards, after my talk, very similar to this one, I got an email from a gal, and she said, it was a long email, I'm quoting, she said, most folks working in long-term care put themselves at the very end of the to-do list. You asked us to close our eyes, put our hands on our hearts, and speak to our heart, to breathe deeply and send positive, loving energy to our heart. I listened and followed your instructions. You know what? Something happened. This is from Christina Hansen, Wellness and Recreation Director for Good Samaritan Society. I talked to her a couple days ago, and she said, share this, please share this, please share this. She said, when I opened my eyes, they were full of tears. You gave a very stressed out woman an opportunity, a wellness director, an opportunity to breathe and connect with the real me, a chance to truly be. That exercise gave me a peace that I have not experienced in many moons, and sincere gratefulness for my hard-working body, a body that I belittle and cheat and push to unhealthy limits, a heart that I use to love on everyone else but me. And I am telling you, this woman is transformed. She is a different person. This is what she's telling me. And of course, I was so, moved and touched by that. As a speaker, that's what you aspire to. That's the point, right? Is you want to have this impact, right? And this is the difference we can make together. This woman will be on my advisory board because from here, I'm now working with you know, I'm doing whatever I can to push this conversation out into your communities. Literally having the conversation. Because if we're not having the conversation about transformed leadership, culture, and well-being, if we're not having the conversation, it will die. You know, our Declaration of Independence was declared by people who stood for it, risked life and limb, but they gave up their lives in order for us to have the kind of life that we do, living independently from British rule, right? They stood for that. They committed their life and limb to it. Okay? So, how are you guys doing? Are you okay? Are you engaged? Are you tracking with me? Is this okay? What we're saying? Just checking in, okay? Oh, yay! Oh, thank you. You guys are great. Hugs. So in my research about culture, I don't know if you read, there's a book called Guts. Kevin and Jackie Freiberg, they're talking about all these amazing companies where leadership, you know, they understand that crafting culture begins with people. They start by creating a workplace that takes great care of its employees, not just its customers. You know, and I know there's talk about, you know, patient-centered care. That's fine. We can do both. We can walk and chew gum at the same time. Because real patient-centered care begins with caregiver-centered care. It does. Better cultures translate into better outcomes. It also means that a better business. So the results are in. If you've got to go to your board and you've got to prove to them why this works, take my slide deck, show them, get other information. Research shows that consistently great cultures enjoy 3 times the revenue of less inclusive peers. Southwest Airlines was that kind of culture. When there were 1 million airlines, it competed. Happy employees, vested from the beginning. Fun, reduced costs. I know the market's changed. You know, Zappos was a company that started with culture. They weren't in the shoe business. Tony Hsieh wrote a book called Happiness, Delivering Happiness. He was clear they were in the happiness business. They went from $0 in revenue to 10 years to over $1 billion based on culture. My wife would tell me, she's like, oh my God, I got these shoes 3 months ago. I don't like them. I'm sending them back. The person spent an hour with her on the phone. Culture, 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 culture. So case study, family and nursing care. So one of the things that's a podcast that's on the MatrixCare website was a podcast between your home care, the MatrixCare home care director. Is his name Nuveen? Yeah, he did an interview with Neil Kurzban, CEO of Family and Nursing Care in Silver Spring, Maryland. And I called Neil up because I listened to this podcast and I was blown away. And Neil says culture is everything. Given the cost of hiring, onboarding, training, and understanding our company, why not invest the money into keeping your people? To him, this is a big duh. And Family and Nursing Care is recognized as one of the top 2 best private duty home care agencies nationwide by Decision Health. So they are walking the walk and talking the talk. They're chosen from approximately 25,000 private duty home care companies in the United States based on client employee satisfaction, revenue, referrals, and innovative programs. They were recognized Workplace Excellence Award from the Alliance for Work Care Excellence in 2018. So they know what they're doing. They've been in business 50 years. They have about $40 million in annual revenue. They have a caregiver turnover rate less than 14%. How many of you that would be like amazing? Yes. I'm telling you how they do it. Now, it may not map over exactly for you, but you want to kind of follow the model, right? And just to know that it's possible. They hire less than 70% of the people that come to apply to work for them. They don't have to advertise because the caregiver is going, work there, they take care of you. How do they do this? They have a full-time caregiver advocate who does nothing but make sure she counsels with the caregivers. And I called her up. Her name is Hannah. She's amazing. She's like, you know, our caregivers, maybe they're with a client for 6 years, that client dies. We realize that's an impact on the caregiver too. We say, are you ready to, you know, take another case? What do you need? They might send flowers to them. They bring them in for a lunch. They love on them. They listen to them. When we're heard, we're well. It restores integrity, well-being. They do meet and greets every other month. They bring the caregivers in. They provide lunch. They talk about, cases. They talk about insurance. She says, mostly what I do is I just listen. What are your needs? What do you need? And then they talk with each other to see what works, what isn't working. They have a goodwill committee. If one of the caregivers, there's a house fire or somebody dies, they'll send a basket of fruit or flowers and then they'll call, are you okay? Do you need anything? Can you imagine if that was you? How good that would make you feel? And some of you have had that experience where it's like, aw, right? So there's recognitions for birthdays, years of service. They always provide food and fun. They get a bonus for referring a caregiver. And they have newsletters that highlight and recognize, positive messages. So they're living this culture. They're creating this culture. And they'll offer unlimited hours for certain caregivers who, because most of them, whatever rate they're making, a lot of them need to work that many hours just to make ends meet, right? So you can offer that. And Neil goes into a lot of the stuff that I don't understand about the metrics and the numbers. And they're, a lot of you know way more about that than me. But in their model started 50 years ago with his mom, where their goal was to pay the caregivers the most and charge the clients the least. And so they're working on volume. So that may not work in your model, but I'm imagining that some measure of this might work. Okay, guys? So that's what they're doing. And I talk about this courage to listen. Courage is what it takes to stand up and speak. Courage is also what it takes to sit down and listen. Not listen to through what you already know, you smart rat in here. Not listening through your assessment. Not listening through hurry up and get to it. Not listening through I already know that. Not listening to that's stupid. And we all do that. We're human beings. I do that, this speaker included, right? But it's noticing when I'm listening that way, is that providing connection? If I'm making somebody wrong or I'm judging them? No. Right? And when I talked to Hannah, I actually called Neil and I said, would it be okay to talk to Hannah? She said, what I love most is helping them solve problems with clients. Perhaps giving them a different perspective on understanding with that while gaining insight. I think it would be great if more companies had a role like mine. It would really help having someone to call just to listen to them when they need it most. That's Hannah P., caregiver advocate for family nursing care. And her background was, she did have a psychology background, but she said really what made it work for me was I understood scheduling. And she said when my caregivers call me, they don't have to worry about spilling the beans because I don't work with the schedule. So they feel safe with her. Does this make sense, you guys? Yeah. How many of you can imagine you could create a role like that where you work? You can imagine that? Any hands going up? I can't see. Yeah. Or something like that, right? So in the caregiver-centric model, it powerfully and naturally engages caregivers and staff, resulting in decreased turnover, higher quality, improved care. The impacts translate into tremendous cost savings associated with marketing, hiring, and training. That's the bottom line, caregiver-centric model. So with Sunrise, I wasn't able to reach Chris. I imagine he's busy. But they were named to the list of the best workplaces in aging services, and they have a for-all culture. And their goal is to create an amazing workforce. They started out with one family, one home in Indiana, and grew to this monster association. And they start off their meetings with a minute for mission. Well, what they do is, share something that brings present the big picture. Why are we doing what we do? To actually bring present the experience of the difference we've made, okay? So I wanted to share with you also about some other opportunities for you to rethink staffing, retention, and marketing. So YouTube has officially passed Television America's most valued platform. People are watching more video on internet than television these days. And so you as leaders, You want to take advantage of this shift in viewing medium in order to stay competitive and meet staffing and workforce goals. Now, I've got about 5 minutes left, and I told you about this white paper. These are where you're going to find, I'm not going to go through these now, because what my request is that if you're engaged in this conversation as leaders or otherwise, and you want to understand what the transformational principles are, this is a white paper that can get you there. I practice these every day. And after years of studying leaders and their traits, I believe that leadership begins and ends with authenticity. This is Bill George, former Medtronic CEO and now Harvard Business School professor of leadership. So I'm not going to go into all the stuff about being authentic or being cause in the matter. There's just too much. Or being a person or an organization of integrity. You'll get a copy of the slide deck, and you'll certainly be able to study those principles. What I did want to be able to do is let you know that I wrote a song. Aren't you relieved? Because being talked to death is a terrible death, right? And you know the theme to If I Only Had a Brain? Could we play that? Is that up now somewhere? Maybe not. I would while away the hours singing in the showers. Do. Goes like this. If you're practicing, relaxing, life wouldn't be so taxing each and every day. And you go, do. So it's time to start confessing just how much we're stressing and learn a better way. Very good. Now I know you're trying hard, just trying to keep up and feeling so tired. But with an open heart and some discipline, you really could relax within, and surely you would then begin to see the light of day, everybody. So let's start practicing, relaxing. Life wouldn't be so taxing. And you know, you might think it's silly, but I have people around the country, they start their day by singing this. Because you cannot sing this and be like on it, miserable. I tried, it's like, if you're practicing, relaxing. It's like the Lollipop Guild. You know the power of music with your seniors. Let's do it with each other. It doesn't have to be my silly little song, right? I just want to say thank you so much. I really do get your commitment to, to the people in your life, yourself, and I hope that I was able to make some difference with you. And we got more work to do together, okay, guys? Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm available for hugs, weddings, bar mitzvahs, Senate investigations.